Hey, what up, guys? So today I got a sort of a new deck profile update, um, and this is coming from me just kind of watching what's going on with the meta and just seeing what people have been trying out with the control archetype. And I noticed a few trends, and I wanted to see if I can kind of replicate it and put my own, I guess, twist on it and see how I would do with it. Um, and you maybe learn something while playing the deck or so. This deck comes from I want to say like a 20K that I saw about earlier this week, where the uh, control player got, I think, second place, and his deck seemed kind of interesting in terms of the ideas. Now I don't know if I didn't watch the stream, so I don't know how he played it. But I heard he played it okay, and sometimes he got really lucky. But either way, I thought this be like another way to kind of play the deck. Now, he was playing pure blue white, maybe Jeskai you could say, because I think he was. I'm not sure if he was playing fire and ice, but either way, it's mostly pure blue white. This variant, or the one I'm showing you today, um, I thought about it even before I saw that stream, just because my side deck had a lot of cards in it that he just ended up mainboarding. So I decided to just go ahead and try to mainboard my side deck in some sense and see how that turns out. Now with this particular build, so this build I'm not playing any Snapcasters or Opt. This build is a Kahira build, so it's pretty cookie cutter in that sense. So like nothing like super innovative, but I wanted to try it out just because I saw a lot of like cards in my side deck that were being mained, and so I was like, okay. I did find myself cutting out like ops just to obviously put in some of those side card decks and whatnot. And so I just wanted to see if I were not playing opt, what ratios of cards I would play, and what cards in my side deck I would play instead. Um, and just mainboarding them and seeing how they would do in the main board rather than in the sideboard, and then just kind of leave my sideboard as more of a toolbox, and seeing how that would do um, in with the current meta. Um, as for my experience with the current meta so far, I think creativity on paper has been really popular, and that's the one deck that I'm struggling to find my stride against. It's the deck that I find the hardest to play against. Um, every other deck, Murktide, Scam, Titan, even Is It Prowess and stuff, all those particular decks I found myself pretty well matched against. So I know at least how to play against them and how to beat them because they're more or less playing fair magic. When it comes to decks that aren't playing fair magic, that's where I find my most difficult matchups to be, because I'm trying to figure out what they're trying to do and what their potential threats and payoffs are. Where that can kind of be really difficult, especially with creativity, since there's so many different types of creativity decks out at the moment. It's hard to figure out how to properly side against them and how to properly play against them. And since my only real practice is in real life, I don't really have any way to really practice playing against them um, by other means. So it's been kind of a slow learning process for me, trying to figure out how to play against those particular decks and what they're capable of, and stuff like that. But with this particular deck here, like I mentioned, we're gonna see how just mainboarding sidecards deck work, and like if I really need to side any other stuff out and in. As you can kind of see as the first card right here, Chalice the Void. So for a while, I've been always been sort of against playing Chalice in the main, because I was still like my op snaps and like one mana interaction cards. Um, but I found that at least right now, especially with prowess, there's a lot of one mana card that you just kind of want to stop. And if you can get a chalice on the board, you can essentially just kind of stop them from even playing the game anymore, which is obviously really good for us. So with breach and stuff, breach has been very popular, especially with aspiring spike and a lot of his breach decks, including breach Grixis, Breach Izzet, Breach Jeskai. So there's a lot of Breach decks that are running around, and a lot of them play 1 mana drops. And so you have to sort of answer that, or you'll be dead on like turn 2 or 3. So Chalice's main deck is just a way to kind of hopefully help us combat against those deck. Granted, I think overall we have enough removal that we should be favored against those type of decks, but they do play stuff like Spell Pierce, which can kind of hinder our removal. So just be careful of that. Don't rely on your removal to win you the game, just because they also play a lot of interactions. So um, yeah, so Chalice is definitely a good way to beat them. Obviously, Chalice loses to the Jeskai version because they can play Prismatic Ending to remove Chalice, or if they were playing something like Explosive or Engineer Explosive, they can also remove Chalice. So it's not for sure a way to win, but it is a way to kind of tilt the slow down the game enough for us to hopefully stabilize and win out on value in the end. All right, so that's a lot of like talking. So let's just jump into the deck. I'm gonna show off the main cards first, then we'll talk about lands. Honestly, the lands hasn't really changed too much. The mana base hasn't changed, but there are a couple of things I'm thinking about doing, but haven't gotten around to applying yet. So first off, you see the 2 Chalice. Some decks were playing 1 Chalice in the main. Some decks were playing like 2 in the main and 2 in the side. Some were playing 2 in the main, 1 in the side. There's really no correct number. I don't really know like the math behind it. I feel like if you're playing 1 Chalice in the main, then you might as well not play at all. I think 3 Chalice is too much because there's certain matchups where Chalice won't do anything, obviously. So I think 2 seems to be the most balanced number, especially if you're playing in the main. Now you can, if you have a 3rd Chalice, you can play a third one in the side, and I think that's a pretty good ratio. But I think playing 4 Chalice might be a little too much. And so for me, I just have 2 Chalice, so I'm just gonna play the 2 Chalice that I do have. So 2 Chalice there. Still our 4 Prismatic Ending here. Still a really good removal card. Um, yeah, not much to say about that. I'm trying out 1 Dress Down. So the Dress Down, the reason why we're playing Dress Down is to play some combat tricks with our own Solitudes and stuff like that, and to obviously stop other Solitudes and whatnot. If they're trying to remove our Planeswalker with Fury, or maybe they're trying to grief or something like that, you can Dress Down in response. Granted, they get the free body on the board, but at least you won't have to deal with their effects. And it can kind of help against Archon of Cruelty and stuff like that. If they against Creativity, if they're trying to cast Creativity on like 1 or 2, and they're trying to bring out 2 Archons in you on you. Sorry, I kind of have a had a stuttering there. Anyways, if they're trying to cast or get Archon on you, you can Dress Down in response, and the Archons will come in with nothing. Or if they're trying to like Bitter Reunion, you can also Dress Down in response to that and whatnot. So just 1 copy. Two might be good because it also just a cantrip if anything. So you can totally play 2. I'm currently kind of tight on the Titan space. So I haven't really found enough space in the deck to play 2 yet. So I played another one in my side deck, but yeah. 1 Dam, because this particular version we're playing a lot more creatures that we want to keep on the board as a tempo play. So I don't find myself needing to blow up stuff as much, and we have a lot more single target removal. You can also play Verdict. You can play 1 or 2 Verdicts if you wanted to. The only con of Dam I found in this particular version of this deck is that it doesn't have white or blue for you to pitch it with a elemental. So that's the only mega con of this particular card. But it's just a one of in case you run into like a Turok game 1 or something that you can't remove easily. Then Dam's kind of there to help save you from that particular interaction if something has like protection from white or protection from multicolor or something like that. Dam is there to help you with that. For counter spells, not much to say about it. We are a control deck. Triple Teferi. Now this I thought about either running four or three of. I decided just to play three of. But at first I was initially testing this particular deck with four. The reason I wanted to play four because I am playing the elemental package, so Teferi is good for that since it's both blue and white. So you can obviously pitch it for Salty or for Solitude. I decided just to play three because of the next card that I'm gonna show you guys. So um, yeah, three for now. Four from the side. Yeah. So next card I'm playing is the Esper Charm. So um, this does a few things, which I haven't played Esper Charm in over a year, just because I thought it was kind of underwhelming when I first initially played it after Modern Horizons 2. The card kind of just wasn't as powerful anymore. Still a good card, I think. It's just hasn't found its stride. Nowadays, I think it might be playable back in if you're playing like just um, Esper Control in general. Uh, but the reason why I'm trying it out in this particular deck, it's because it does a couple things I wanted to do. Now it's obviously blue and white, so you can pitch it for the elementals, where something like Archmage's Charm you can't because it's mono blue. You can only pitch it for Salty, where Esper Charm you can pitch it for Solitude, and then it also helps us deal draw cards because we need draw power in this particular deck, and we're kind of running low in draw power. So I'm playing this to kind of draw in case we're pitching a lot with the elementals. We want to get some card advantage back, or um, maybe if your opponent's low on cards in their hands, you know, Charm can act like a counter spell. You can just force them to discard their cards in their hand, which is really nice. And then finally, the destroying the enchantment is somewhat more relevant nowadays. Back then, the destroying the enchantment was not relevant at all because it was 3 mana to pop an enchantment, which is really expensive, and it still is really expensive nowadays. But with the increased use of leyline binding, I think Charm is okay to get rid of that. To maybe get back your whatever's hidden away under your opponent's leyline. So it's another way to combat leyline. Because the suckiest part is leylining and leyline, and like having a leyline war is just not fun. So the Esper Charm here can kind of help out with that, while also being a kind of a versatile card in terms of card draw and being able to be pitched for stuff. Now I like it over Memory Deluge, namely because it's 1 mana cheaper, and then it has more modes. So you because it's 1 mana cheaper, you can play on turn 3 rather than having to wait till turn 4. Because turn 4 and onwards, your mana is pretty constricted. So just being able to do this for 3 mana rather than 4 is nice. Granted, the 2 random cards you get, could be 2 lands, which would be pretty bad anyways. But yeah, the charm here is going to be for that, and it's probably the main reason why I'm still playing black in the deck is just for the charms here. Now, this deck is more blue-white than it is Esper because there's only like 3 black cards. It's the 2 charms and the 1 dam that are going to be the black cards that we main deck. So you could even, if you choose to, you can not. You don't even have to play black, and you can just play this as a pure white, pure blue-white deck. You can replace this with Verdict, and you can replace Charm with like anything else. You can replace it with Dress Downs. You can replace this with Vetoes. I saw a build online that was playing Broker's Charm, which was interesting. So Broker's Charm is the Bant Charm. So it does basically 2 of the same thing Esper Charm does. It draws 2 cards, and it destroys an enchantment. But the other mode for it, which I thought was interesting, was the your target creature gets a +1 and it deals combat damage to a creature or planeswalker. So why that is important is because, for example, if you have Salty, right, and you have Broker's Charm in your hand, for example, you can pitch something, right? You can pitch a blue card, play Salty. Salty enters the board. It does its thing, and then before the invoke effect sacks it, you can also use the Broker's Charm on the Salty as its before it's sacking itself and force the Subtlety to fight or kill like a Planeswalker or something like that before it dies, which was pretty an interesting choice right there. So you get a free spell, you lose a couple cards, but you gain out on tempo quite a bit. So that's like a combat trick that I didn't really think about until I saw that, and I was like, oh, you can kind of, that's pretty cool. We get a free elemental while also fighting and removing. So it works really well with Solitude because you can Solitude kill something and then Broker's Charm the Solitude, and then Solitude can becomes a 4/3, and then kill something through fighting and damage. So that that interaction is interesting. So if you wanted to, because I know some people are playing more heavily on green, they're playing like Breeding Pool and the other green trinomes. So you can potentially play Brokerage Charm or Broker's Charm over Esper Charm. But for now, I think I want to try out the Esper Charm main deck and see how that goes. Then you got your four Archmage, still like the best utility 3 mana spell we got here. And then obviously you saw the two Subtleties, so we're not playing any Snapcasters and any ops as I mentioned. So we're trying out the Subtleties now. So I've seen a variety of decks go from 1 to 3 Subtleties. I have 2 Subtleties, so I'm just gonna play 2. And when I did board them in, I've always liked 2 Subtleties. I never really cared for triple Subtleties. So Subtlety is pretty good. Really good card against Scam. If they're trying to like grief you, you can Subtlety and stuff like that. Keeps the grief or keeps the fury off the board. So yeah, good interaction in that sense. And then the 4 mana Planeswalker, I still like one of each. Especially if you're playing elementals, you kind of need a way to get a card advantage, and Jace is just a solid way of getting card advantage. And then Wandering Emperor just to help you close out the games, build a board, go wide, things like that. And you can combat trick with her too, so kind of neat there. 2 big mana Teferis. I still like 2. I never thought I needed more than 2. So yeah, two big mana Teferi, and then we have here 4 Solitudes. Yeah, not much to say about Solitude. You already know what it does. So in this particular deck, we're going full elemental. So we do have Kahira as our companion, and Kahira can be like a 3 mana free pitch card for Solitude. But yeah, so Solitude, and then we have Leyline as our last 4. So we have a lot of single target removal, which is why I'm not really playing too many board wipes anymore, because we have a total of like 12 single target removal, which is really nice. You got yeah, also the Prismatic Ending, so we're like just teched out on removal right here. And the nice thing is like our removal exiles, so like every single removal we have exiles, which is very kind of important, exiling rather than destroying. So stuff that have indestructible don't really matter to us, and then stuff that has like Emrakul or like a Reality Smasher, loses to Solitude and Binding, because it's an ability, not a spell that targets them, which is nice. Yeah, it's just we're gonna try this out. We're gonna see how well 12 targeted removal is. Obviously, we still want to avoid pitching for Solitude and Subtleties, but obviously, if we have to, we have to. Don't just do it. And then yeah, so what the game plan of this deck is to try to remove our opponent's stuff for really cheap and stick a Planeswalker, and then just try to gain advantage through Planeswalkers and some of our 3 mana interaction cards like Esper Charm and Archmage Charm, and then obviously counter wherever else they might be playing. So that's the main idea behind this deck, is just to be able to protect our Planeswalkers a lot better, because we have so many efficient removal, and then try to use our Planeswalkers to gain advantage in terms of card advantage, and removal spell and interaction, and then that's kind of how we're gonna win the game. And then this is obviously that, yeah. So that's the main deck there. So it's more blue-white definitely than it is Esper. So I don't really know what to call this particular deck, but that's the main deck. As for the mana base, still pretty much the same. I haven't really changed too much. So I'm playing 9 fetches. You can probably play 10 if you wanted to. I only have 9 fetches right now, so I'm playing the 9-11 um, 9-11 ratio, I guess. So you have 9 fetch lands and 11 fetchable targets. And then, yeah, they're still pretty much the same in terms of the 11 fetchable targets. Now, the one thing I was debating on changing out is changing out the Sparta's headquarters for a Ketra Trinome. So I guess in that sense, if I do that, then I can for sure leyline for 1 if I wanted to. I still don't have Ketra Trinome. Or you can do Rafine's Trinome and Zergoth Trinome. I do have, sorry, not Rafine's, the Jeskai Trinome. I forgot what the name of the Jeskai Trinome. So you can do that plus um, the Zargot Trinome, I think, which is the green, black, and blue one. So either combination of those will get you to 5 lands. But for now, this is what I got, so I'm just gonna stick with it. Um, and hopefully, if I get those other cards in, I'll try them out. But that's the ratio there. Uh, 2 Mystic Gates. I always found that I like this card at 2. Don't think I want to play more than 2, just because if you draw multiple of them, they become dead. So, but they are nice though to filter out your blue. A lot of your single target blue mana to make them be able to be used for white. So, for example, we have like 6 or 7 lands here that don't give us white, or sorry, or 6 lands here that doesn't give us white, and 1 land that doesn't give us blue. So that's what the gates are for, is to kind of filter those lands out and make them a little bit more usable. And for our utility lands, we got just the 3 here: the 1 storm, the 1 celestial. I like them, and then obviously just kind of like a random card here. This is our 25th land. So I bumped the land count to 25 because we're not playing Ops or Snapcasters. So we need a way to make sure we get consistent mana. So I think 25 lands is going to be good for the deck. Maybe even more, but I guess you run the risk of flooding out if you play like 26, 27 lands. So this right now is just a placeholder. I really don't know what to play in its place. I would not recommend playing triple tri-lands if you're playing any man lands. If you're not playing any man lands, you can probably play a third tri-land, another tap land. But if you're playing man lands like I am, then I don't recommend that. You can also play Castle Vantress. I find that Castle Vantress is just really expensive to use, and it just gives you 1 blue, and it also screws you when you get Blood Moon, because it's only giving you blue. So unless you have and it's some way to remove Blood Moon with just a single blue. I just didn't like Castle Vantress, but it has its utilities there. So I'm playing Iganjo over Otawara at the moment. You can also play Otawara if you want. I'm playing Iganjo namely so I can deal with a Turok, I guess, because like the deck is mainly white removal, so Turok has protection from white. Iganjo is a land, so it doesn't really have a color, so you can actually blast the Turok with Iganjo, which is nice. I didn't want to play Otawara because I don't want to return something like a Turok for them just to cast it again and eat away at your hand. There's a lot of cards in the meta that you just don't want to return. Otawara I found is better against something like a Teferi, obviously, like because you're cycling a card, you can bounce the Teferi. It's not really playing at instant speed per se, or instant sorcery, or instant spells, I should say. So, Otawara is good against Teferi. Iganjo is good against every other creature. It's good against like Turok, good against Omnath. It's good against like a Fury, for example. If you're playing against Scam and Scam goes Fury and they try to like hit you for 8, you can Iganjo them. You can kill Grief, stuff like that, which is kind of nice about Iganjo. And you're only playing 1 because you don't want to draw more than 1. If you get 2 Iganjo, you're screwed because they're also legendary land, and it's also just gives you a white, which I don't care for because we're playing 4 Archmage Charm, so you don't want too many sources of just single white, because then you won't be able to cast Archmage Charm on turn 3, which is very important. So yeah, just the 1 Iganjo, and we have 3 black source. I found that 3 black source is fine, especially for the amount of black cards that I'm playing. In the main deck, I'm playing three black spells. You can always fetch this and then fetch this if you need to cast Dam for two. Otherwise, you'll eventually just find these naturally. So you should be able to cast Esper Charm no problem at all with just three black source. And then yeah, that's really it to say. I think for the mana base there. All right, so on to the side deck. So here's my Kahira. I don't have one yet. For some reason, I thought I had a Kahira somewhere in my pile of cards, but I just couldn't find it. So I had to order another one on TCG Player, and it hasn't come in yet. So for now, this is my Kahira, and I haven't got to play with this deck yet. This is like just the initial build of the deck. This deck has zero test playing. It's just all theory right now, and it's kind of just based off of other people's results. So um, once I get to playing this deck, then I'll let you guys know how I'm doing with it. Anyways, so Kahira, no reason not to play it because our entire creature base is just elementals. So Kahira will allow us to buy it for three and then pitch it for Solitude if you need to, or you just buy it and eventually play it, and then you give all your elementals vigilance and a +1/+1, which is really good for closing out the game. So yeah, Kahira, gonna be our companion. So definitely no reason not to play it. Then we have another Dress Down. I've seen some decks play like two Dress Downs in the main. Um, you could. For now, I'm just playing two, one in the main, one in the side. So yeah, just Dress Down. Two Aether Gust. I still like the Aether Gust here. It could be anything really. It could be Celestial Purge, is what I'm seeing some people play. That's the deal with like I guess Blood Moon and Ren and Six and stuff like that. So what I like about Aether Gust is that we already have a lot of single target removal. So I don't think I need a Celestial Purge per se because I already have Prismatic and I have whatchamacallit, Leyline and Solitude, and even to a certain extent, Archmage Charm and um, the Esper Charm. So I don't think I need like more removal on board. I need more interaction on the stack. So that's why I chose to go with the Aether Gust, which helps us dodge Veil and stuff like that, and or uncounterable stuff. So I decided to go with the Aether Gust still. All right, so another card here is gonna be new, is or not really new but old because I used to play this in my original Esper control deck. Haven't played it in a long time because I've leaned towards Snapcaster, but this deck doesn't play any Snapcaster, so you don't need your grave at all. You don't have any recurring spells. We're not playing Memory Deluge, so it doesn't matter. Uh, Rest in Peace seems like it'd be pretty good in today's meta, especially since there's so many prowess decks and breach decks right now that are just kind of running around, and there are still a couple of obviously you got Living End also, and you have a few creativity decks that are playing Persist. So yeah, Rest in Peace, like you slam it down, they have no way of dealing with it. It buys you time to kind of get to the point where you can hopefully establish control, I guess you can say, or establish um, kind of lost that words right now. Stabilize. Sorry, there you go. So hopefully it gives you enough time to be able to stabilize and hopefully win from there. So just two Rest in Peace. I found three a bit too much. You can also play, I guess, Leyline of the Void if you open it up with it. The only issue with Leyline of the Void is it's 4 mana, so if you draw it later in the game, while it is castable in this particular deck because we do have two black source, the only issue with Leyline of the Void is it's 4 mana and it comes out too late at turn 4 if you were to hard cast it, and I don't think I would want to play like side in 3 Leyline of the Void at all because that's just too slow. If you don't open it and you lose. Where Rest in Peace, like on turn 2 we can jam it down and we should be fine. So yeah, just Rest in Peace. There you go. 2 Hollow Moonlights to play against creativity. Just token generators. You can use this against the Rhino deck because Rhinos are tokens and this will kill the tokens when they come out. Just overall very good not only is it a good cantrip, it's a good effect. So um, yeah, just very flexible card. You can use it against like Living End even. So a lot of utility. One of the best side card decks, I would say, in today's meta. Two vetoes. Veto's still pretty good. Pretty good in this particular deck. You can main deck it. I was gonna try to main deck one, but I was like, I think a lot more threats are creature based, so decided not to play Dovin's veto in the main. While it's still pretty good to pitch for Solitude and Salty, I decided just to still keep it in the side. And then we have two Kai's Guile. Still really love this card. I have a really hard time just not playing it as a control player. It kind of just does all the other weird stuff that the other charms don't do. So just sacking creatures and exiling graveyards generally pretty good for us. So I decided to play two. We have like I said, three black sources. Shouldn't have any issues casting this card. So um, there you go. And then finally, we got the fourth Teferi and two Verdicts. So, Teferi, I don't think I need to really say much about it. I found like there's certain matchups when you play four Teferi really good, and then certain matchups like Teferi is not that great. So I decided just to keep the fourth copy in just in case. But yeah. Okay, now verdicts. Why verdicts versus Damn? And I'll just kind of give you a kind of a rundown, sort of like theory. Now this is all just obviously just theory. So okay, in this particular deck, verdict might be really good because you can pitch it for the elementals when you don't need it. Um, and then it's also uncounterable, where Damn is like it's not uncounterable, and it does stop regenerate, which doesn't really come up that often. Um, but it is a single target removal spell if we need to. All right, so why I main deck one and not the other and stuff like that. So the idea here is, um, if you're gonna side a board wipe and you're gonna um, side it in, you know that you're gonna need a board wipe. Like you don't need the flexibility of Damn, because obviously Verdict against certain matchup is a lot better. Than Damn is. So matchups against like Rhino, maybe even Living End, maybe Blue White Hammer, or Affinity Blue White Affinity, or Mono Blue Affinity. Those decks you definitely want Verdicts over Damn. The reason why is that it's uncounterable. Those decks do run counter spells. They run Force of Negation. They run Spell Pierce. They run improvised counter spells. They run all those sort of interactions where you just you need a board wipe. This is the best board wipe to go for because it's uncounterable and it destroys everything, does all that. Where Damn is more of a flexible card. So in the main deck, it's a lot better because in the main deck you can board wipe if you need to, or you can just single target removal if you have board control. You obviously don't want to blow up your own board. So like let's say you have a Solitude and they have a Murktide, and yeah, you want to get rid of that Murktide, go ahead and cast it for 2 mana, and then you still have your Solitude. So that's the idea behind the two. The reason why you want one or the other. Like if you need a board wipe and you need it, then Verdict's obviously the best card to go into. You don't want to side Damn because obviously if you need a board wipe, Damn is a subpar-ish board wipe in that sense because it can be countered. So that's the idea behind that. And in technicality, Verdict is better for this particular deck because we have the Solitude and Subtleties that we need to pitch for sometimes, where Damn can't do that. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts why I play Damn or Verdict in the main deck versus the side deck, or one reason or another. So they have their strengths and their weaknesses for sure. They obviously are pretty good against like Torok. Like Damn is really good against Torok because you can just Damn it for 2, kill the Torok, and still save your board. Because a lot of your creatures are white, so they can't block the Torok. Obviously, Salty you can, but Verdict can also get rid of Torok, but for 4 mana. So it's just efficiency versus whatnot. So like obviously Damn is efficient, versatile, still pretty good. There's very few regenerative creatures in the game, so sometimes that comes up. Mostly against Affinity because Affinity sometimes have regenerative creatures. Verdict, I think against certain decks that go wide, those decks that go wide, they typically have interaction, and that's just where Verdict's a lot stronger. Because it's really hard to interact with Verdict, unless they got like I don't know a spell queller or something like that, where eats away your card from the stack. But yeah, so those are the thoughts behind um, certain board wipes. Anyways, guys, I think that is it. Hopefully this video wasn't too long, and I think I gave a decent explanation about some of the deck ideas here and there. Um, yeah, if you got any questions or concerns or whatever, yeah, hit me down below in the comments, and I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability. But yeah, like I said, this is not my original like idea, but I had this idea in my head for a while anyways. Like I wanted to try something with like playing the subtleties in the main. In certain matchups, subtlety is better than Snapcaster, just because you get a body on the board, and turn one, turn two, when you don't really have a graveyard built up yet, and your opponent tries to like play unfair magic. Subtlety is a way to kind of keep them honest, because then it helps you buy you some time, even though it is a hard minus, because you're typically losing 2 cards for using solitude or subtlety. But we're playing some more draw cards, in the sense of like Esper Charm and the the regular Archmage charms to try to draw us cards, and obviously our planeswalkers and stuff like that. So hopefully, like the charms can offset the minuses that we're gonna be maybe having to go through when we pitch for the elementals, and if not, hopefully our cheap removal suite of like 12 removal here should hopefully keep us alive, keep us in the game, and disrupt our opponent, and then kind of go from there. So yep, I think that's it, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed this bit of a deck idea, mini deck update. I'll be trying to play this deck a little bit more. There's an RCQ coming up this weekend. I debated on going. I'm not sure if I'll go yet or not. It's kind of far for me. It's a bit of a drive. I think it's an hour drive from where I live. Or maybe not an hour, maybe about like 40 minutes or so. Maybe an hour with traffic. But since I haven't gotten to play this actual deck yet, I don't know if I would do very well at an RCQ. I mean, in general, the principle of a control deck is still the same. I'm sure I can probably pilot this pretty well. I just wouldn't know how to properly pilot it against certain decks and certain matchups. But I mean, overall, it's just control. So if you play one control, you should be able to play a different type of control. Um, anyways, I hope you guys enjoy, and I will see you guys next time.